HOI4 has been out 8 years now, and we have seen many new expansions, many new features, and many different changes to the game overall. One thing that does happen though, when you've got many features and new bloats and new expansions to the game, is you do find that the game needs more tweaks and quality of life improvements. And the objective then is to make playing the game smoother and easier for us guys. And an example, it doesn't require as many clicks to do a certain action. If you happen to be like microing inside of this menu too much and not focusing on the battles, there could be some kind of quality of life thing that could be fixed to make the game a little bit more easy to play and more easier to manage. So what I like to do today is go through a list that me and my Twitch chat have compiled of quality of life changes that could change to Hearts of Iron 4 to make the game easier, particularly into the mid and particularly the late game, but it probably will affect the early game as well. All right, first up, we're going to talk about one of the brand new features to HOI. Well, actually, it's not the last expansion, it's the one before that, and it's the ability to change miles and update them. So when you've got artillery like this, it's telling you in game that there is a new MIO improvement available for artillery. Let's have a look what it might be. So we click on the artillery, then we click on the variant, then we click on the upgrade to actually see that it's an improvement to reliability. I think it's +4 reliability, I'm presuming. Then we have to save it. Then we have to click on the artillery again. Then we have to hit the artillery. So can you just see what we just did there? That was a lot of clicks to do one action. And I personally think that's incredibly inefficient use of your time to be messing around. Just do a very insignificantly small change. Because let's not argue about it. MIO improvements are very small changes. And for the amount of clicks that I had to put in there, I feel like it wasn't worth my time. Particularly as well, that a lot of the time when I hover over this, I don't even know what this button is telling me. What kind of upgrade is this? I have to click on it, find the aircraft, click on the designer for the variant, and then hover over this one. And it tells me it's an improvement to speed and agility. Now, as a plane, that's important. Agility and speed is a really important stat to win those dogfights. If you click on it, you can see the improvement, and it is worth the upgrade, so I want to do that. However, once again, I feel like it's too many clicks. So here's the suggestion here. This is such an easy one. When you hover over this, it tells you what improvements it's going to make. It's basically going to say to you, when you hover over this tooltip, it'll say, this is improving max speed by 5% and max agility by 5%. So you know what it's going to do. Then, with a single click, it will upgrade this plane. You will spend the 5 air XP, and it will automatically change the variant over. So basically, it's doing something that require 4 or 5 clicks in one single click. And once again, this is a super prime example of a quality of life improvement. Once again, it gets you in here, you make the improvements, boom, back into the battlefield where you care the most. Your clicks are prioritized. And it means a lot, for instance, for upgrades like this, like battleships. So click on the battleship, click on the battleship, we hover over it, it's going to improve anti-air, light attack, hit chance, incoming torpedo, critical chance. A lot of these don't really affect this ship because it's got very limited equipment on it. Well, I could do that and then necessarily upgrade it. But once again, if it was a single click that you could just do here, that would be a lot more worthwhile. Second improvement, I think is super worth it as well. If you do a MIO improvement to a ship, you don't need to rebuild the ship from the ground up. I feel like if it's such an insignificant tweak, a very small tweak that it's going to make to the ship overall, you shouldn't need to build the whole ship from the ground up again. So for instance, as an example, maybe it'll take 2 or 3 days longer to produce this ship because she made a technical change to that ship overall. So if I was to press this button here, it would just add a few extra days to the ship's production overall, and it wouldn't necessarily require me to do this. Watch, I'll show you. So if we could do this ship here, create a new variant, and then if I was to create with this new variant, that's had a very small tweak, by the way, a very small change with a MIO upgrade, I have to rebuild the ship from the ground up. We basically have to sink the entire ship and then build a brand new chassis just because we made that insignificantly tweak to the ship. What was the change to the ship, actually? Let's actually find out. That'd be kind of funny, wouldn't it? What was the last one we made? It was this one. Hardened critical components. I don't think that's worthy of building a whole brand new ship. And it's with this as well. Secondary fire director control. Once again, even the MIO descriptions say to you that these aren't major changes to the ship overall. So why would I have to build a whole new brand new ship? Once again, just quality of life things. Because remember, if you were needing to build a brand new ship with these upgrades, this is what you would have to do. I'll give you an example. Let's just remove this, just make it a little bit easier to see. Here's an example. So you would have to, 1, 2, make the MIO change. Then what you would have to do is say that when you finish building this ship, cancel the production line, then make a new production line, then assign the naval dockyards, and then start producing it from here onto here. So the way it would work is you would assign your naval dockyards to here. When it's finished building this ship, you only move on to the new ships. But can you see what I just did there? What I did there, which was such an unbelievably small change, by making those very small MIO improvements, I had to build a whole new production line for that. And I felt like it was very click intensive and it just wasn't worth my time. But once again, this is why we're talking about quality of life. All right, that's enough about MIO stuff. Moving on. Let's talk more about ships. This is a weird one because this already applies in the game in a different mechanic. Here's an example. When I make a new production line for my ships, let's give an example. Let's say destroyers. And then I assign the MIO on. Why doesn't it automatically assign all the naval dockyards when I do the click? So I'll just delete that off and I'll show you again just to make it clear. So build new ship. We're going to build a destroyer. Use the raiding fleet MIO. But for some bizarre reason, why would I ever be producing a ship with a single naval dockyard? Surely I want to assign all my naval dockyards. So wouldn't it make more sense when I make a new production line for ships just to automatically assign all the naval dockyards that I've got? Or even just assign them grayed out to add them to the queue? Why do I have to manually click that in? I just suppose in some instances when you want to make multiple queues of ships, you do this. And you have to manually click them all one by one. I don't know, it's just a bit excessive. And it's just a quality of life thing again. Once again, it just could be a little bit easier whenever you make a new ship to assign the naval dockyards fully, completely. And the reason why I say this is the game already does this when you refit a ship. Get this. So we've got a refit for this submarine here. There we go. We're going to refit the submarine. It's going to take 9 days to refit it. We click OK. Look what it just did there. It did what I just wanted to do with the new construction. It's assigned all the naval dockyards. Clearly, the devs are aware that when you refit, you want to assign as many as you've got. So you assign all of them. But as you can see right now, when you make a new production line of a ship, it doesn't assign all of them. You have to click that. But when you refit, it doesn't because it automatically knows you want to build it as quickly as possible. So it assigns all of them. I didn't have to manually click that. Do you know what I mean? Clearly, the refit system understands that you want to do it as quickly as possible. But surely you wouldn't do that with ships as well, wouldn't you? It's a small change. I understand it's not a biggie. But once again, if you're making multiple lines of ships, and making ships at the moment is a bit of a chore, and hence the reason why people are always like, I don't understand the naval game because the naval game is a bit of a chore. It won't be nice to have a little bit of quality of life for ships. That's all I'm going to say. Very small changes though, very tiny ones. So I thought I was done with MIOs. I'm not actually done with MIOs. I think that sometimes MIOs are great, and 9 times out of 10, when you assign a MIO on, there's really no reason not to assign a MIO on. Here's an example. For instance, destroyers I showed you earlier. There's only really one ship that can be assigned to a MIO, and it's this one. So the question would be, is why would I ever not assign that one? There really is no incentive to go for no military industrial organization. So why would I ever select that top option? So it always makes me question, you know, like, why have you even given me the option for this one? Listen, I like the fact that there's a synergy to the UI and everything, but if there's only one option available to me, why do you give me the option? You know what I mean? So what you guys are probably going to say in the comments here, I'm just going to predict what you're going to say, is you're going to say, oh no, it costs you political power to assign a MIO. No, it only does that if you use a MIO for research. Can you see that at the very bottom? It says cost 0.10 political power per day. So you only use MIOs and they only consume political power when they're used as a part of research. They don't cost anything to assign for a production line. So once again, when I click on this and I've only got one option for a MIO that gives all these awesome bonuses, why would I not select this? That's the big question, right? Why would I ever not do that? I don't know, it just seems kind of a little bit silly to me. Artillery, I've only got one option, so why are you giving me the option for that? Now, on the other hand, if you select in one and you've got 2 different MIOs for tanks, this is legit. Giving me the option here makes perfect sense. But once again, there's no actual incentive for no military industrial organization. Now, if Paradox at some point in the future did give a bonus for selecting this one at the top, I don't know, maybe there's a raw production bonus from this just for the fact that you don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of the MIO. Maybe that could be an option. That would make sense, you know, because at least you're having a legitimate choice between the two. But it seems really strange to me that it gives you the option when there's only one option. Well, what's the point in that case? See, with the planes, it makes sense as well. There's 2 options. But once again, when I select a ship here, I'm going to build a ship. Oh, there's 2 options here. So once again, that makes sense. I'm glad they're giving me the option if there's more than one option. But otherwise, it just seems to be pointless to me. Once again, quality of life is minimizing the amount of clicks, particularly clicks that are just kind of a waste of time, you know? Oh, man, this is a biggie. And God, it feels like Navy is such a quality of life thing that we just need to keep going back to. When producing new ships, there should be a way of assigning a primary place to put them, like a default location. So here's an example. You know, this is one of these ones I've not thought too much about because I don't even know how it would be designed. But you know, like it automatically puts it on auto. It'd be kind of nice if there was a default location you could assign it to. So for instance, I don't know, if I was to shift or control click on Brittany for these two, therefore every new production line that I make changes it from auto to Brittany. Once again, when you make a new production line of ships, it just feels like it's unnecessarily click intensive. And a lot of the time, you just want it to be a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more straightforward. And one of the issues is you're constantly having to click here to assign it to the fleet or assign it to a port. It'd be nice if there was a primary fleet to assign it to, or a primary dock to assign it to, and you could specifically set that as the actual default, therefore not having to go through this ridiculous task of assigning them over and over and over again. As you probably noticed, there's a pattern forming, right? Have you guessed the pattern? There's a lot of naval stuff, isn't there? And it might explain why people are so intimidated by the naval game, because it just feels like there's a less quality of life behind that set of feature, hence the reason why people are more intimidated to pick it up. This is something that people don't do very often, and I think it's another one of those, well, I don't understand it, so I don't do it. When you refit something, it isn't very clear in the production tab that you're refitting something. So I'm just refitted a bunch of submarines there, and it's just added all the submarines to the production queue. But once again, if you've not got a keen eye for Navy here, you might not be able to spot this, but which ones are the refitted ones, and which ones am I building brand new? I mean, there is a very small difference, but you've got to kind of look for it. So I'll give you an example here. Let me see if I can do it for you. It's kind of a game of spot the difference, I suppose. This is kind of funny, actually, because it is a perfect example of why this system needs to be tweaked ever so slightly. Can you see here? And I mean, if you look really close enough and you know the Navy, and probably some of you guys have got a good amount of hours in the game, you probably can find out the spot the difference here. Which ones am I building brand new ships, and which ones in the production queue are the ones I'm refitting? At a glance, you can't tell, can you? But when you really look, you're like, oh, I can tell the ones now. Yeah? It's basically the ones with the symbol. The ones without the symbol are getting our brand new builds. And also the ones that haven't got this plus or minus are the ones that are being refitted. Once again, it's not very clear though, is it? You have to have a really look at it. There's an easy solution to this, guys. It's so easy. Paradox need to change the background of this color or this little piece of the UI. They need to make it a different color, and specifically have in brackets maybe refit or something like that, or a big wrench behind this icon to show that this is being a refit. But you honestly, hand on heart, you can tell straight away here that this isn't very clear what is being refit and what is actually being built brand new. It's just not very clear. Feedback Gaming, UI design. Hire this guy. Hey, look, you can actually tell which ones are brand new builds now, and which ones are being refit. I suppose it's clear as day. It looks awful. It looks shit. But you can actually clearly tell now which ones are brand new builds. I can probably get a gauge of this video that you guys probably think this is like such a not a big deal. But remember, if you've got like 10k hours in the game, that's an exaggeration. If you've got like 2k hours in the game, you're probably so in the game that you kind of know all this very subtle UI differences. But remember, we're trying to come into this with someone who maybe doesn't have over 100 hours and probably still getting adjusted to the game, and probably has to deal with like Navy when they don't necessarily like dealing with Navy because they don't fully understand it. And I suppose in that circumstance, it's very intimidating, the fact that just these very small UI changes aren't as user-friendly as they should be. All right, this is a classic. This is an old chestnut and a bit of a classic. I'm starting to believe that this one's been abandoned for so long. This might actually be like a core engine problem that can never be fixed. So, paratroopers, aren't they fun? Honestly, I love paratroopers. I think they're a really cool feature. But one of the biggest issues with paratroopers is the tooltip for it is awful. So, paratroopers, you press the button, you click on an airport that has the transport planes, and then you assign where you want the paradrop to happen to, and then you press the button and pray that the paradrop happens. And it actually happened that time, and it went flawlessly. It doesn't usually happen that easily. An example is if you assign too many paratroopers. Also, this UI is kind of weird. Whenever you assign a paratrooper to a paratrooper order, for some reason you have to back out the menu, like click it away, click on it again, and then control click. For some reason it never works. Anyway, then you do a paradrop, and look, it won't paradrop. Oh no, why? Could all the reasons be that these paradrops are not happening? Why? And you hover over it here, and the game doesn't give you no information whatsoever of why the power drop isn't happening. It just gives me this estimate of, will we be successful with the power drop? It says superior enemy. Where? Where's the superior enemy? This tooltip is so out of date. All I'm saying, guys, is the game needs to be a bit more clear of why a power drop can't happen. And there could be multiple reasons. 1, a war. 2, there are too few transport planes. 3, you don't have air superiority. 4, you've assigned too many paratroopers with lack of transport planes. Lots of stuff like that. I mean, I only know that from experimenting with the game. But if you're new at the game and you're probably like pulling your hair out, like, why is this power drop not happening? Well, I mean, the reason this power drop isn't happening is because I've assigned too many paratroopers. And you can only assign 1 division for every 50 transport planes. So this will work now. Boop. Assign 2 more. Boop. But if you assign 3, nothing happens because you need 150 transports to drop them. Why those arbitrary numbers? I don't know. I think it's hard-coded. I think it's hard-coded. I don't think they can change it. Surprisingly, though, the naval invasion order is actually really good with the tooltip. It actually tells you what's actually happening. It's really good. So, for instance, assign 1 paratrooper to a naval invasion. You can see after 5 days, it says... It doesn't actually say that you're not at war with Sweden. That would be kind of useful. That would actually kind of be useful. But let's say we do new CB, declare war on Sweden. And then you can see now... We have insufficient naval supremacy in this region to do a naval invasion. You currently have 0% and you need 50%. So if I was to do a strike force in this region, there we go, naval invasion activated. The point I'm getting at is the tooltip for power dropping has a lack of information in it. And therefore, you never really know if a power drop is going to happen or not. I don't think it's an issue with paratroopers or naval invasions being bugged, which I thought they were for a long time. The issue stems from the tooltip isn't good enough, so you think it's broken and it's not working, when in lateral fact it is working. It's just the tooltip doesn't give you enough information. Anyway, paratrooper tooltip, not good. Please tell us why a power drop can't happen. You know, I got suggested by my Twitch chat this one, and at first when I heard it, I was like, I'm not a big fan of it, but the ability to queue up agency upgrades. So you know, like with MIOs, you can queue them up. So you can press shift, you can basically queue them up one by one by one. Yeah? Which I think is a really cool feature because it's, once again, it's an amazing quality of life thing. And it's really nice that the devs spotted this after when they released this expansion, because they spotted that this was a bit too click intensive. That's awesome, by the way. I love it when the devs are on the ball with that. However, wouldn't it be really cool if you had the ability to queue up upgrades for the agency as well? Because a lot of the time, I'm finding myself picking the same upgrades every single game. Every game, I pick the exact same ones over and over and over again. I always go for SPLs because it reduces the chance to be detected. I find myself always going for Army and Naval Demand. I quite often do localized training centers. Wouldn't it really kind of cool if you could hold shift and queue these up one by one? Now, I understand these have a cost associated with them. They cost a lot of civilian factories. So there would have to be quite a lot of checks in the back of the game. But because I do the same build almost every single game, wouldn't it be kind of cool if I could just queue these up and then forget about them? Because all the time, you only want 4 upgrades to become the Spy Master, or 6 upgrades to get the extra spy. Because you do that almost every single game without even thinking, wouldn't it be kind of cool to queue that up? And at first, when I heard the chat suggest that, I thought that was a bad idea. But now more thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I do find myself doing that the same every single game. All right, Dave's going to beat a dead horse here because he's mentioned this a bajillion times before. But Lend-Leasing, it'd be kind of cool when you Lend-Lease, you have the ability to send all your old equipment because you get like this ridiculously long list. And wouldn't it be kind of cool just to send all of this, all of the equipment? But the downside to it is you have to hit once and then you have to hit all. And this is just super click intensive. Why don't I just have the ability to hold shift or control or some kind of hotkey and click it and it automatically does that for me? Like, it automatically knows that I want to send everything of this certain item. I don't mind this long queue here. I mean, it is what it is, you know. But wouldn't it be kind of cool just to hold shift and click through all of these and it just sends all of them? Because once again, it's always a late game occurrence. You always end up with loads of old equipment, and it'd be really cool to just send that to some other nation to Lend-Lease. I mean, Lend-Leasing is fun, isn't it? I enjoy Lend-Leasing because it's like AI versus AI, and I'm like the cheerleader. I'm like, I'm going to root for my team, you know? I like it. It's cool. Lend-Lease is fun. Once again, I mentioned that one a bajillion times, but it's my old favorite. I wish I could Lend-Lease my old equipment. It is what it is. This is one of these ones that I never thought I would care about as well. But once again, one of you guys in the Twitch chat, you guys are so smart. I never thought this would be a big deal, but get this. When you want to assign a general, you have to click on the divisions, then you assign them to an army by clicking them to the bottom. Then you move your mouse all the way to the top left of the screen to click the general. Then you move it all the way back to the middle of the screen, and then you click the general. Once again, this feels petty, and there's a bit of a dirty taste in my mouth when I say this, but isn't that really an inefficient movement of your mouse? You know, wouldn't it be kind of better if there was a hotkey to assign a general on? So for instance, you wouldn't have to sweep across the whole of the screen to click here, to click it again. And an example, wouldn't it be better if you could just right click on this portrait here and it would pop up the general screen? I don't know, just like a weird suggestion. Once again, I never even thought of stuff like this. It just popped into my head when one of you guys in the chat said it to me. But once again, having to move all the way to the left, just to move all the way to the center again, just to assign a general, it feels like assigning generals is just a little bit of a chore. And wouldn't it just be more convenient just to be able to click here and have it pop up in the middle? Then you can just go boop, and then boop. You know what I mean? And it'd just be a little quicker, a lot more streamlined. You know what I mean? Once again, I do think it feels a little bit petty for me to talk about this one, but I feel really passionate about it, because once again, once you play the game as many hours as I've got, I feel like this is things you notice and you're like, you know what? That's an unbelievably inefficient movement of your mouse to say that it could be assigned by a hotkey. Once again, not a biggie, but once again, definitely quality of life. Okay, another Navy one. You guys love Navy, right? We love the Navy, right? And this is it. It's a simple one, this one. But one of the common things you end up doing a lot when you're building a Navy is constantly stopping a production line and building a new production line, because either you've had a MIO improvement or you've upgraded one of your new technologies for your guns or something. And because of that, you constantly, tediously have to keep popping back into the menus over and over and over again to constantly upgrade. And the process is this. This is how you do it. So you go into here. Now this ship is 50% produced. Let's pretend we're pretending. And oh, there's an upgrade option for it. So let's do all the upgrades. Yep. And we'll do the MIO upgrade too, and then we'll save it. And this one is now out of date. So now what you do here is click here to end this production line. Then you make the new ship. And then what happens is when this ship's fully built, all these naval dockyards will then be assigned onto this ship, the new approved version. Yeah. And once again, every time you produce a new ship, either with a MIO upgrade or a technological advance, you constantly have to do this process of canceling the old production line and assigning them onto the new ship. Now, as I mentioned to you a little bit earlier in this video, having this button do everything in one would be really useful. I'll admit that. However, there are some bigger upgrades you will make, like a modern Mark IV battery that would probably require too much of a cost to implement that on an existingly built ship. So once again, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you just had the option to, when this ship's built, to automatically switch to the new model? I don't know, maybe it'd be a button down here, something like auto switch out when building new ship, or something along those lines. You know what I mean? So in a way, I'm not having to constantly keep going back into the menu to reassign your new technology and my upgrades and new stats onto your ship. So once again, late game, it does get kind of tedious having to constantly go into this menu to click through it over and over again. And once again, quality of life for Navy, it's a biggie. Once again, I don't want to bang about Navy anymore. I feel like I've beat that dead horse. Oh, this is a biggie. This is such a biggie. Once again, hotkey mastery with feedback gaming. Now, they added a new hotkey for the division designer. If you hold shift, you can click them away with a single click. How awesome is that? That's cool, right? I love that. That's so awesome. But most of the time, you're not making divisions smaller. You tend to make them bigger. So this is something you just don't use that frequently, which I'm okay with. I like the fact they've added the option for this. This is really cool. It makes me happy. However, a lot of the time, you want to make the division bigger. But would it be kind of cool if I could shift click on one of these and it just basically copies the one from above? So here's a typical example. You're basically making your amazing tank division. Oh, it's an amazing tank. You love it. It's the best of the best. But you end up with this division. This is the one you end up making. And the process of expanding this division is super click intensive. Click, light tank. Click, let's say it's a medium tank. Click, motorize. You have to move them around the screen. And then motorize. You know, they keep moving as well, which is really annoying. Then artillery. Now, wouldn't it be really cool if you could just hold shift and click on the plus and it will just copy the one from above it? I don't know, because it feels like you do this quite a lot. This is a typical thing you do in every Hearts of Iron 4 game. You basically go into here and then you shift click on the pluses. So that way you could just expand the division just exactly the way you want it and make it really easy to do. And then I have to go through all the rigmarole of having to do those clicks a bajillion times and seeing these buttons move around the screen over and over again. Once again, not a biggie, but once again, every game, you're expanding your division, you're making a bigger division, and it'd be kind of convenient if there's a quality of life of just being able to expand it nice and quick. Another bit of a small one too, but wouldn't it be kind of cool is when you assign your air wings onto a general, would it be kind of cool if you could right click onto the field marshal and it would evenly distribute them among the generals? Be kind of cool, I guess. Just a, once again, late game quality of life thing. It's one of those kind of like, well, you've already won the game mechanics, so it's like, what's the point? I'll argue that's probably legit. Not a biggie, but it is something that'd be kind of cool. And this is my number one. I've saved the best till last. This is the biggie of the biggies. I remember sitting with one of the devs last year, and I said, wouldn't it be kind of cool if there was a notification at the top of the screen when your MIO reached level 6 and you could assign a policy? And I think he said to me, what did he say? He said, doesn't it already do that? And I was like, no. So what happens is when a MIO reaches level 6, why level 6? I don't know. Just it's an arbitrary number, I guess. They can go up to level 9. No, I think they can go higher than level 9, actually. Anyway, when they reach level 6, you can go into your MIO and assign a policies to gain a bunch of bonuses. The best ones are for Navy, Air Force, and tanks. And the ones for the material designers aren't as good, but they're still legit. And yeah, you spend a little bit of political power and you gain a bonus. That's it. That's it. And some of the bonuses for Air, Navy, and tanks are actually quite strong. But the game doesn't let you know this. I suppose you're just expected to read the dev diary and understand that you have to click this. I don't know what else to say, really. There's not a lot to say with that, I guess. So my request is when it reaches level 6, at the top of the screen, there's like a notification, maybe like, well, like this, the MIO icon. And you click on your policies and you can assign a policy. And the game would remind you of that. It's quality of life because obviously it's a nice bonus that you can take advantage of. And to be honest, it's a feature that people are not even aware that's even in the game unless you read the dev diaries. Are there any other suggestions you guys have got to improve the quality of life of the game that doesn't necessarily affect the balance or how certain elements of the game are more or less OP? So we're just talking about stuff that's basically inefficient when you click. Anyway, if you've got any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Probably you guys will come out with some really good suggestions, ones that I've not mentioned yet. If you want more of this kind of content, click on this one on the screen. And if you want more content overall, don't forget to like and subscribe. And YouTube will provide you with more of that said content. Have a good day, guys. I love you.